FanDuel quarterback analysis for Week 12. I'm Jason Gilbo, JGilbo11, breaking down Spencer Lumbach's NFL Week 12 picks. And if you want to check out this article, it's on the site right now, so you can definitely go ahead and take a look at that. And this is for the main slate. This isn't for Thanksgiving, but he does highlight his plays for Thanksgiving. He does like Big Ben, likes Dak Prescott, thinks Sam Bradford is a good tournament pick. So if you're playing Thanksgiving, he is looking at those three names. Um, Obviously, no Andrew Luck, definitely hurts that game a little bit there in terms of upside, but pretty safe floor. But looking at the Sunday main slate, and obviously that takes, a lot of quarterbacks off the table because, we don't get the Monday night game. We don't get three games for Thanksgiving. But cash game quarterbacks, looking at Russell Wilson, 7,500 on the road against the Bucks, 25.5 team total, opponent pass rank at 25. You look at Wilson, 25 plus fantasy points in three straight games. He's been a solid, healthy quarterback for the last few weeks, and we're starting to see that production from last year where he was just awesome in the second half. Um, Buccaneers pass, defense has been very mediocre. We saw Derek Carr torch them. We've seen Kaepernick have a decent day. So, we've seen a lot of success in terms of quarterbacks against the Bucks right now, and the fact that Seattle's rolling, even though they're traveling across the country. It's safe to say at this price tag, Wilson's a fairly safe call. Next, he's looking up Cam Newton, 7,800 on the road against the Raiders, and 300 more than Wilson. My personal take is I like Cam Newton. If you watch the DraftKings podcast for quarterbacks, I like him in GPPs. Spencer likes him in cash games. 7,800, very low price for a guy who has some rushing upside, who was basically 9K for most of the year last year. That's obviously been a big change. It hasn't really been that great. You look at this game, second highest total on the main slate. Both secondaries very average. I think this is one could go very back and forth, and that's really the way that Spencer's anticipating it happening. Obviously, calling for the shootout. Oakland 29th ranked pass rank, 23 total there, and a cheap price tag. So I certainly, Cam Newton is definitely in play this week. GPP quarterbacks, 7,800 on the road against the Browns, again, Eli Manning. So sticking really in this high 7K range, Spencer is, and I definitely like that range. I don't think you really need to pay up this week. Obviously, you can't with some of these guys, but, it leaves you a little bit of leeway to kind of use guys like JHIA, Melvin Gordon, pay for an Amari Cooper or something like that. You got some room to maneuver and kind of save that cash. So GPP quarterbacks, as mentioned, Eli Manning taking on the Browns on the road. And Eli Manning, obviously, this one, we saw, last week, much more indicative of the weather being, 40 plus mile per hour winds. It was just a mess. You just need to feed Le'Veon Bell and let your defense go to work. This one could be a little bit different. If the fact that the weather is solid, Eli Manning becomes a solid play against the secondary that's been awful. OBJ obviously would match up against Joe Hayden. Not particularly worried. Is it the greatest matchup in the world? No, but Cleveland is awful against wide receiver one, so that would open things up. Obviously, Sterling Shepard as well. And I think Rashad Jennings is going to gain a little bit of a buzz, so I think Eli Manning's a good swerve off of that. Reasonable projection, a reasonable team total. This is a team that does move the offense quite a bit, so in terms of kind of pass attempts and overall volume, I think you're going to see a good production from Eli Manning. And I definitely think he has a reasonable floor, so there really isn't a ton of risk for me with this GPP pick, but yet I do think he's going to be one of the lower owned high upside plays, so solid call there. Derek Carr, 7,900. I talked about him on the DK pod, so I'm definitely in favor of Carr. I like him in GPPs. I had basically both these quarterbacks in GPP format this week. So 7,900 a home matchup against the Panthers that really struggles against the pass. You look at Carr, 20 fantasy points per game average this season. Solid upside as we saw against Tampa. Great pairing options with Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree. You can certainly go that route. And then you look, on the other side, if Cam Newton's moving the ball, this is going to force Oakland to move the ball as well. And really, they struggle against wide receiver ones badly. So I do like the Cooper match with Derek Carr, and under 8K still. So we're still sitting relatively cheap. We're not looking to really pay up for a Tom Brady this week or a Drew Brees on FanDuel. So I definitely don't mind kind of sticking in this range. Value QBs here, Carson Palmer, 7,100. I mean, this is a guy who really hasn't been that great this year. Um, but matchup and production, I mean, it's certainly there this week. I mean, 7,100 against an Atlanta secondary that's been very up and down this year. They don't rank very highly at all. They struggle against pass catching backs, aka David Johnson. So I like Palmer here, and I'm with Spencer. I think he's a tournament pick. I can't see myself really using him in cash with Wilson just 400 more, who's been much more consistent of late. Palmer's really been up and down. So, I think this is a solid tournament play. Obviously, you're expecting a fair amount of points in this game. And I think really with the fact that, Arizona should be forced to throw a little bit more this game, he's a fairly solid look. And obviously his pairing partners like a Fitzgerald, David Johnson. David Johnson's expensive, but Fitzgerald not too badly priced. So a lot of upside. Doesn't have to really do much to pay off that price tag. So if he does go for 250 and like 2 touchdowns, very solid for the price. So if you want to check out Spencer's article, head on over to davefantasycafe.com and it's up on the site now. So we'll see you guys in week 13.